I just unmuted you. You may talk. There it is. Oh boy, you're muting. You're buffering. We get this every time.
How's my video now?
Oh, you better. It's a lot better. A lot better. So, since we've gone live, how long has it been? Months? It's been so long, we don't even have any followers anymore, Rob. It's just you and I here. Oh no, we got
Can you
at
hear
least
me?
two other. Yeah, I can hear you, Rob.
Am I still lagging?
Yeah, you're a little bit lagging.
Let me send out some.
All right. While we're doing that,
No, what we do. I was trying to get. Did you put it on Twitter?
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you heard me, Rob. We are live.
Do what?
So because he cusses like a sailor, right? So I have to let him know that, so he doesn't embarrass himself, embarrass me, embarrass everybody. And when it comes to bad behavior, that's the first person I think of is Rob. He's such a crazy guy. But
Okay.
yeah,
I lost my
yeah,
phone.
you're still buffering real bad, dude. Dang. Anna, you out there too? I bet you are.
Yeah.
Well, while you're trying to figure out your buffering issues
Are
for
you?
for the millionth time, I'm gonna. Now you're buffering. You're coming in and out. You're freezing. You're like moving around like that. Yeah, I can see. I can hear you, but you're not moving. The video is buffering, and you're not coming in.
Yeah. That's what I do.
All right. So, can you hear me okay now, Rob?
So I can.
Yeah. You're lagging.
Try and get that
I
going.
guess we'll just have a one-way conversation.
Not again. That's why I wanted to get it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Should have been here a little more quick.
Well, folks, since the last time I've
Okay.
been, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I was just trying to see if I was still buffering or not, or if I'm, looking dead sexy yet or not. So,
Well, yeah, well, it's still
like I'm
frames.
come
Are you
lagging
moving
again.
around still frames?
Hmm.
Kenneth, is that what you see as well as him
Let's see
moving
if I
around?
can resolve that.
We'll get this show on the road in a little bit, folks. Apologize for the technical difficulties, but it's a Missouri deep in the woods thing.
Yep.
Dude, I think I found out what the problem is. There we go. It
What?
was recording. It was doing that recording thing again, Rob. So I turned it off.
AT&T error?
Yeah, let's see if everything looks
Yeah.
better now.
Yeah, you were piping
Yep, I
through
was
my
doing
laptop with
exactly
that.
what I thought I wasn't going to do, but hey,
Let's see how that goes.
yeah. All right, let's kick it
Yeah.
off here, Rob. Since the last time, I believe we were both on here chit-chatting
Am I
about
still?
whatever. Rob, you can't hear me still, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, that was a 6 seconds
I'm
until I
trying to
heard
get
a
where I can see you
reply,
now.
so there's a buffering there.
Here we are.
So your computer should work better since I turned
Or
that
I just
recording
didn't
on.
respond quick enough.
All right. Yeah, Kenneth Taylor says choppy video. Kenneth, the mic coming in okay at least? Make sure I look good. Hello. We'll get this show on the road. Maybe we'll see. See if Rob can stop buffering here. 7 minutes of buffering.
1 second.
I'll continue. So since the last time Rob and I we made a video, that was at least released just the other day from being hospitalized. I was in for about a week or so, I'm guessing, but I'm feeling a lot better, and here I am. So Rob and I will be making more videos. Hopefully, we can get this technical issue cleared up, and we can start doing videos more often.
Yeah.
It's just not this, as you guys know, it's been very hectic out there trying to get anything. Hi, Mikey. So anyway, it's been hectic ever since DCG came out and testified and in front of Congress. It's almost as if, in fact, that was the day that happened is when I believe we made our video, and we made a video with Sean Cahill. We made a video with, hey, Mikey, you can sit. We made a video with Christopher Sharp that never aired. And we made a video with Jim Quirk that never aired that day because I was not feeling well. And I apologize. I promised these people, I interviewed them, and it's kind of a little bit too late now to be posting stuff like that. So that's what happened with that interview. But since that, Michael, can you turn it down, please? Since that's been going on, Mikey, turn it down, please. Mikey, get your headphones on. Headphones right here. Make put his headphones on so I don't have to hear his tablet. But hey, Mikey, you want your headphones? It's right over there. So a lot of things are going on. I got a picture of Lou. If you haven't seen Lou lately, or seen his tweet, check that guy out. He's been making his way to the gym. He's making me look horrible. I used to work out. I used to be into kickboxing and stuff like that. And because all the stuff is going on, we put everything on the side, including the charity. And I'm hoping that I'm feeling better and things are starting to calm down with DCG and the craziness going on with that. Maybe we can pick up where we left off. Of one of the things that I brought up recently.
Yeah.
What's that, Rob?
Things are coming in. Yeah. Now the things are kind of back down to controlled. Yeah, it's just kind of odd.
Yeah. One of the ideas that I had in the meantime is that I could still raise money for the charity. And I came up with this art piece I did like a year and a half ago or more. Here's a picture of it. Not knowing that someone already did this style of pulp Thank you, buddy. Did this pulp art already of Lou, but it was a different image, and I forgot what it said underneath. But
I know my lagging, Ruben.
yeah, you're lagging still, buddy. So what I did was I had an idea. I'll go ahead and start selling these, and the backlash, it's almost as if I was selling nuclear weapons on the street or something. People were having a freaking fit over this. And this is for charity, right? So I told them I'm not going to, this is too much. I don't want to do anything with that image now. So we're just moving along. And I was able to sell a few images of I think it was the Trent, the one with the man that took a picture at 2 different locations on the side of his house. It's black and white. His wife, I think they're rabbit farmers, right? And I took one of the best images of that, and then I took a Time Life photo that someone stood exactly where, or just about where that picture was taken, and I was able to do a photo merge. And then I was able to colorize it, and I made it big, and the craft was right there, and I was able to sell, and all the money went to Lou's charity, which is San Francis Animal Shelter in Buffalo, Wyoming. The next charity I'm going to be doing will be for Rob's, and it's going to be, let's see if I have one here. Doodaloo, doodaloo, doot, doot. I don't have one right now, but in the future, I know I have had some requests for this one right here. It's going to be 11 by 14. And once you take it, you put it on a piece of plastic, and you can put that sucker anywhere. It's freaking awesome. I've got my copy right over here. I just need to put it on and glue it onto something. Let's see what else we got going on. Hey, Mikey. There's Mikey. Mikey's like, I have had enough of you.
Yeah, am I still buffering?
No, you sound better now.
I tried something different.
All right.
Okay. Me.
I had a few more images come in this time.
So
it's the really nice stuff. It's the prints on metal, and I just wanted to share with everybody the ones that came in. This is the one.
Put this out on Twitter real quick.
Hey, go ahead, Rob. So this one came in, and this one came in. And if you're interested in these two, obviously that's Epcot, right? Yeah. All right. So they look awesome on metal. But if you like one, and all the money goes to charity, just message me and I'll get with you tomorrow. And I'll get that off to you guys, or ordered if you guys are interested. If you have seen my videos and you see me holding a big knife, there's a story behind the knife. I mean, I can cut into anything, but because the knife was given to me by Rob, it's now my letter opener. It's my package opener. So put it to work here. Let's see who's else in the chat here. We've got a bunch of people. Yes, Keith, you get one by just, I'll get with you. I'll text you tomorrow and see if you're still interested. And all the money will go to Rob's charity, which is Pin Up Vets. What's the name of your charity, Rob? Pin Up for Vets?
Let's see. Boy, you would put me on the spot like that. real quick?
It's based. Describe what it's
It's
all about.
Pinups for Vets. Yeah, I have to find the exact name of it. Well, it's veterans' wives and things that wanted to do fundraisers for the military and such, like when reserve initiatives. So they came up with the idea to do old-fashioned, like World War II style calendars. They're very tasteful, of like nose art with the like the baby boot type stuff and things like that, but very tasteful, and military wives or sometimes both that get the pictures and sell the calendars each year and use the money to visit vets that are hospitalized and needing candy stripers, basically, to go in and bring them gift baskets, things like that, hang out with them, attend to the family's needs, food, things like that. So, very good. And there's don't have the exact name of it right on hand at the moment. I may be getting it wrong. But been out in the heat a little today.
Yeah, but these images right here, if you're interested in them, now if we have enough time,
Thank you, Keith.
And I'm sure we will. Check this out, guys. I have a box here. I forgot what I ordered, so we get to open it here in a moment and check it out. And if it's something that we may be interested in selling for charity, we'll do that as well. But there's been a lot going on, a lot in the news.
Yeah, that's a Damascus blade knife, some substantial money a while back, and couldn't afford to pay me, so he paid me back in knives.
There you go.
Which is really cool.
And these are the reason why they look like this is because they've been folded.
That's how I got the knives.
This is a Damascus knife, right? Is that what it's called? Damascus. And it's like a. All I know is that it's folded many times, and it increases the strength of the knife. And yeah, that's what I opened up these packages with. And
folded, countless times and heat welded back together.
Yeah, have you? I was wanting to bring up something in the news, Rob, and I wanted your 2 cents about the Mexico mummies. What are your thoughts on that whole shenanigans? Is what it is. It's shenanigans.
I think the timing is very suspect because early in 2022, the Pentagon wasn't being forthcoming with FOIA and they weren't releasing anything. And then they passed the 2023 NDAA and forced them to be forthcoming. And then they did that 1,300 document data dump FOIA release to The Sun, a UK tabloid, which is fine. But why couldn't they release that in the United States? And the first thing that the Sun jumped on was the alien pregnancies, when there was an incredible amount of credible data to be extracted there, but they chose that, and in my opinion, to invalidate the topic. And it was very timely. And we see that going on consistently now, where when there's anything significant that comes out in the news cycle, it seems like the Pentagon or somebody, or the Post, whatever you want to call it, somebody interjects something that is like tit for tat on the level to try and discredit, like with David Grush giving testimony in Congress on July 26th. And it says that the U.S. and private contractors are in possession of biologicals. Then just days after, with Ron Graves, while he's on stage in the Mexican in Congress hearing, they trot out these bodies. And I did some deep dive on the one of the videos that was published, and it looks like there was ice on the ground when they were transporting them in an outdoor scene, which means that was recorded last winter or some winter. It definitely wasn't July in Mexico to have ice on the ground, and there were double layer images on some of the monitors, so it looks like they fabricated it to update the timestamps So whether it was a psyop by somebody, whether, well, I don't even want to guess right now. Plenty of people can make their
Somebody.
own decisions of
There's
where that might have originated.
Yep. I believe there's
It's
forces
coordinated,
at
but
hand.
you know, whether they're doing it just because they're, well, for our new listeners that aren't used to, it's either inspired through the Pentagon or influenced by them more directly. Let's just say,
Right.
I can't prove it, but there's been plenty of that precedents set, just like with stating that Lou's emails were all suddenly erased and no record of it, which is against the law. Those are supposed to be kept in perpetuity because of his other job duties that he had as well. And it's convenient, I think, that they're finding key emails that they want to use against him to try and cast him in a negative light. How did they find those? But the other ones are deleted. I find that a little too convenient for my taste on that.
Yeah.
So just a lot of less than honorable actions taking place. And I still contend, when you have somebody that spent 20 years in the military as an officer writing policies for psyops and all that, and that's all you do, and then continued on in her public capacity after that and went to work for the Pentagon, her 2003 paper that Susan Go wrote states that you can't separate psyops from public affairs officer. They're one and the same.
Right.
I really think she should recuse herself at this point. That's just bad blood. She helped write a paper for Rumsfeld in 2002 that was stating how they wanted to take control of the narrative through a psyops unit to help shape the narrative in the United States as well, which is illegal. But they were trying to come out with a way to maneuver around the law to make it look like they're just shaping the conversation, let's just say.
Right.
No. Psyops is psyops. You know, if you're trying, the government should not be in our free market economy, our freedom of speech, but they are, and it's supposed to be illegal. They shouldn't be doing that, and they damn sure shouldn't be making another program and office to facilitate that. I commend her for her service, but in the public arena, psyops has no place on the American public. It needs to stop. 75 years is enough. You know, the stigma that's still out there, they've created this, they're still creating it and rolling out the mummies in Mexico. I think it's just a continuation of that. Whether it was, we can't prove it. Of course we can't. But I think it was inspired by people that are trying to discredit this, because we've got contractors, aerospace corporations and all that have vested interest in keeping this topic suppressed and quiet. And for those that don't believe the phenomenon exists, why would the government and aerospace industries and all them be going so hardcore to silence anybody that has an authentic voice in this and keep it from moving forward? Why would they be writing laws and legislation that are getting more specific each year to include eminent domain over any alleged UFO materials, craft, or biologicals? If they didn't have confidence that those existed, they would not write the laws mandating that they have eminent domain over that.
Right.
So,
yeah. Look, I'm
at
no
this point,
doctor.
it's not really a matter of trying to deliberate if the phenomenon.
Yeah. Keep going, Rob.
I'm not able. Huh?
I said, keep going. You're doing great. I interrupt you.
To say that we keep finding these battles where every time we start getting forward momentum in the media or in hearings and legislation, that they keep countering. It's the same tit for tat on every level. In the media, they do this. We see it on Twitter when somebody gets prominent, authenticate the narrative that we're dealing with a non-human intelligence here on the planet, and in all appearances, it's ramping up. And like with Vegas and Peru sightings, they keep saying that those have been discredited and debunked, which I want to talk about that word in a minute. They haven't been. Actually, they've been. They can't explain them, even though they've tried to debunk them. They can't. But I want to get away from using the word debunked, because bunk means that somebody had intentionally tried to mislead people in the first place. And most of this conversation, like with the 3 videos that were released, those
Right.
weren't bunked to begin with. Those are anomalous videos, which means we need a different word for that. And they're definitely not bunk. We don't need that negative connotation, and that gives a nod to a certain person, the franchise, because after that person wrote that book, that word usage has gone up about 80% in the U.S. lexicon since then in 2 years. So that's inadvertently giving a nod to his. I just really encourage people to step away from the word bunk or debunk unless it's something obviously like the alien bodies in Mexico that we can call, yeah, thank you, that we can call bunk with those videos
And still to
with
this
the
day,
alien
people
bodies.
are
And people say,
reporting it.
well, why don't you give them a chance first to see if they're credible, because they've got, yeah, they keep rolling out the Mexican medical reports and such. And everybody defers to Gary Nolan on these topics, of course, because that's what he does. He's one of the world's best at it. So I've deferred people to go look at Twitter, read his feed. He's already tried to look at the DNA reports and found that they are too, my word, schizophrenic. They are not in the proper order that you would need to try and make a determination for what they are. And too much ambiguity. And he didn't want to have to spend, countless man hours sorting it out. There are better things to do with your time. And there are bad actors. Well, we all know this. Even on Twitter, like Ken Klippenstein, whatever his name was. I know 3 different sock puppet accounts that he has on Twitter right now that I've been watching, that The Intercept or him, whichever, 2 are pro UFO, one's against it. And then they even argue with themselves, which is really ironic. So they are baiting people to try and take the bait on all kinds of things that are conspiratorial, like they think we're complete idiots or something. And no one's bought into his narrative. Hey, Alexander, I got noticed this just a few minutes ago myself. So I would have told you, but I didn't have time. But glad you were here. Definitely. We need to get together and do this, all of us. But anyway, seems the Intercept is trying to run a psyop on the Twitter community, UFO Twitter, to throw another wrench in the gears. But luckily, no one has bought onto that sock puppet account. It's not getting any action. So if it were, I'd tell people who it was. At some point, I will. I just want to see if they trip over themselves, because it's against the law to run a psyop like that. And if it's sponsored through the news organization, I dare say that there's ethics that will come into play with that as well. So just going to see how far they want to try and extend their necks out with it.
Rob, didn't you tell me about
Yeah,
is this the
Timothy
same guy
Albert.
that was having a conversation with himself on Twitter with a sock puppet to prove a point or something? He was talking to himself.
Yeah. The one that was pro UFOs and stuff was arguing with the one again. Yeah. There were 2. They were both opened up in mid-June 2023, 2 weeks after a new CEO took over for the Intercept, just weeks before he had the article come out. So and it's his face on one of them. He's got a mask on, but you can see his eyes. So
talking about love, that's one of the.
They just think we're a bunch of credulous.
And he's the one that came up with the story of DCG having PTSD issues.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that sleazy thing. And I've pointed out to people, the majority of people that have served in the military and the intelligence community, if they have any time on any service time in whatsoever, if they worked in the field, whether it's FBI, CIA, federal marshals, or local law enforcement, the majority of them are going to have PTSD issues. All of them. It's just inherent in the jobs that you do. Look at riot season and such, and the DC one. How many law enforcement and emergency personnel and stuff have suffered permanent injuries from that? It's a common artifact for veterans and law enforcement and emergency responders and such, and across the board, trauma surgeons, you name it, they've got trauma. It's inherent in the job they do. It's a necessary evil. Thank them for doing that, so other people don't have to. Hey, Tim, good to see you. UFO Man's here.
Yes,
but that was just lowbrow and entirely it wasn't that he wanted to balance out the conversation, because he wasn't in it in the first place. That was I did a lot of research on Intercept too. That platform is used when they want to go after somebody and do a hit piece, and they use Ken to do it because other people don't want to sully their reputations in the media. So they go to somebody that doesn't have a reputation and doesn't care about being cast in a bad light. He just doesn't care. He's got a whole history of doing very bad things. Well, yeah. Like stripping on LA and on the street in front of every God and creation. I found that video of him too, which I don't really want to put out there because it's pretty disgusting. But that's just the kind of character he has, or does not, I should say. So that's the kind of crap that we've been dealing with, and I think it's really doing a disservice to. They keep saying that David Grush does not have any evidence and it's all hearsay. No, it wasn't. If you listen carefully to his interviews and the inquiry in Congress, he states that he has presented evidence that he himself has gathered to the ICIG and to the appropriate congressional committees, but he can't say what he shared for evidence because it's still an ongoing investigation, including the death threats against him and illegal and unethical reprisals. Yeah. So, but he did say that the 40 people that he interviewed are either legacy or still work in this crash retrieval program, and they provided evidence. And see, all these people are under oath when they gave this testimony, and some of them, at one point, he had Title 10 and Title 50 authority, so he could operate in military or civilian arenas, and through the skiff rooms and in the IG, he could call people in, and even if they weren't willing, he had rank that he could call them in. Basically, I wouldn't say interrogate people, but he could put them under questioning and put them under subpoena and oath to where they are obligated to tell the truth. Because you've got Captain Kirk that came out, the leader of Arrow, and he gave his op-ed, off the cuff, emotional diatribe on LinkedIn that he pulled down promptly, and he's made statements on press briefings, but he's not said any of that under oath. So people are trying to say, well, there's no evidence of extraterrestrial activity. Well, let's find out what their definition is to Arrow. What do they define it as? Because, yeah, it may not be extraterrestrial. It may be native to this planet that they know of and never have observed it outside of our atmosphere, which includes the moon. So technically, he wouldn't be lying. But if they want to make a comparison, put him under oath and see if he says the same thing. And I'm betting to say that you're probably going to not find that he's going to change his tune a little bit with that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Rob, I want to tell you, not a single time there when you were talking did you buff. Your video's buffering a little bit, but you came across sounding great. Anna did put up the name of the charity, and let's see if I can find it. Pin Up for Vets, I think it's called. So, Anna, where are you at? You're way up here. Never mind.
I thought that
it's been correct, so long,
but it didn't
dude.
sound right, and
Yeah. No, there's Anna, but that's not what she was saying. Let's see, Anna. Oh no, all right. Let's see more Anna.
Pin
Anna.
Servets.
That's it.
There's only one Pin
She's hollering
Servets
from
waiting
the
for
other room.
crazy.
Yeah. So a lot's happened since the last time we were on. I know they had the NASA panel talking about, hey, we're going to be looking into this, and yeah, it's almost and I was watching a video from Richard Dolan, and I highly suggest subscribing to him because he's very knowledgeable. And he was talking about, really, you have all this information of UFOs in your files, and you just can't find anything, and we're just starting fresh. We're going to look right now and see if there's anything out there because how can we live in the universe all by ourselves? Man, it's way beyond that. They're here with us now. Not
Yeah.
only that, they've been here. And y'all gonna talk about looking into it now? Y'all have known NASA never admit seeing anything. That's NASA for you.
They know. See, Bill Nelson has a top security, has a TS clearance. He knows the truth of this, but he thinks that we're, us peasants are going to believe him as the gospel, what he says. That he comes out and says that, well, we've got no evidence that. Well, they didn't clarify during that hearing that they sampled from only publicly, unclassified information that they could draw from for the reports. Of course, they weren't going to find anything because they have a information bias that they started with, and they even stated, one of them, I think, on the panel, that before it even started, that they knew what the conclusion was going to be, that they'd find nothing that was anomalous. But they didn't say in that hearing that they were only going off of unclassified data. And of course, they're not going to find anything. It's a confirmation bias because they have an information bias, and they targeted for mundane results, and that's what they got. Just like you have Moultrie and Bray that during those hearings that kept saying, no, I don't have any awareness of that. They can bigot what they are briefed on. So they have deniable plausibility. If they don't want to know about Maelstrom and be questioned on it, then they don't get an official briefing where it's logged in. So they have to rise to the level of credibility. So it has to be logged in as an official briefing, or otherwise it's scuttlebutt or hearsay or whatever you want to call it. Like they're trying to accuse David Grush of just having hearsay. They bigot their lists like that to where they don't take a briefing on it because they don't want to have to lie and perjure themselves. But back to David Grush, with them trying to say that he had no evidence and it's all hearsay, interesting stories. Yep. He had access to over 2,000 SAP groups, programs that he looked into over a 4-year period. The guy is an intellectual savant. I dare say that it's not just interesting stories and a few credulous people that fed him false information, which, I get in arguments with people on Twitter still that they're trying to say that it's just Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff and them that groomed him. And that's all and Congress, they think those are the only scientists that are in our, in our government and in these programs. It's so short-sighted of them. Some of them actually believe it. Some don't believe it. They're just advancing it because they don't want disclosure to come out for whatever reason. There's a lot of money and a lot of power that's in play here, and a lot of people don't want to relinquish that. You have the Air Force that are being so staunchly rebellious to all the legislation. I think what they're trying to do, like with Arrow, is run the clock out for the next administration or election cycle. They think that they can probably get somebody in those seats to make this go away. And if they can protract it out long enough and not tell us anything, they can try and stuff it back in the bottle with the next election. And I think some of our elected officials are going to use this as a bargaining chip for campaigning with. So if we don't get progress within the next 6 months or so or sooner, we're going to end up getting stalled out until the election cycle's over with, because they're going to use it as bargaining chips, and Arrow and all these programs that are obfuscating are going to be trying to not have any information, like with subpoenas and such. They're going to just ignore them until after the next election. And if they're forced to testify then maybe they'll come forward. Maybe they won't. But you have all these aerospace companies and social media giants that are pumping money and all this on both sides. So, there's some that would benefit from disclosure and some that are going to lose tremendously by the government acknowledging that we're not alone, and we haven't been alone, and that they've known about this since 1945 at least.
Yeah.
And to come out and say that they've lied twice on Roswell, like they did in the 90s to Clinton administration when they asked, to go back and review this. So they came out and said, oh, yeah, it was balloons, but now we're daisy chaining them. And they were having reverse psychosis of a program that was in 1953 of putting up fake little,
dummies,
bodies, and they're just remembering the wrong date. How? I mean, yeah. Yep. Mark my words, the truth is going to come out, and the truth about Roswell is going to come out. That that was not weather balloons. It was truly anomalous craft. I think 3 of them, and it's going to be bigger than Watergate. And that's where my computer got fried last year when I said this. Was I was railing about that, but it's the truth. As far as we know it, people think that they just came onto this topic, that this is something new. It hasn't. It started back with Kehoe back in the early 50s. We had somebody as senior as David multiple times that have come out and tried to disclose what they knew, because this was their job, and they knew the government was lying, and they wanted to try and set the record straight. And because people say, well, how come why is this just now coming out? It's not. It's been coming out every generation. And you had Mike Turner, I think his name was, in the House, that was saying, well, it would take thousands of people to have to hide that kind of a program for decades, and it's just preposterous. Yeah, it is, but it's a very comprehensive global program that is run through different intelligence organizations, let's just say, and they can hire private contractors to do whatever they want and empower them with arresting powers, like Jonathan found out when in Peru in '97. When he was taken hostage for 2 weeks by our own government, military. Well, they weren't. They were contractors, and they have arresting powers, and they
have legal arresting powers.
Power to do whatever they want.
Yeah,
they can even. Yeah. I think I'm looking into something I'm researching, but I think they're even allowed to, take out people to keep the program protected if they can try and justify it. But, dead men tell no tales. So they can just, well, yeah, he was going to rat us out, so we had to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you've got aerospace organization companies now.
Yep. Jonathan's come out now.
There's aerospace corporations. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
But we've got aerospace corporations that are finding out the phenomenon is real, and that they weren't provided craft or materials, and their competitors got unfair business advantages for decades. I mean, the litigation alone on this is just going to be staggering. They're going to have to do some kind of a truth and reconciliation type of gesture, because this could bankrupt the government. I mean, you have abductions, and they're not protecting the people and claiming it's not real, but they're aware of it. There's so much liability here that would just chain reaction. They're going to have to draw the line somewhere. So
it's almost
if give them a chance to come forward.
It's not happening, and we don't have to answer to it. But I think what Alexander here was talking about. Did anyone else hear about one official that admitted we've had bodies and such? Are you talking about David DCG, David Grush? Because he talked about that during his testimony. And it's not that he saw it. He just knows a bunch of people who have, which from my understanding, those folks are lining up right now, like dozens of them who have firsthand knowledge of these legacy programs. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, the 40 witnesses that he brought to the ICIG and the Congress intelligence committees, they are either legacy members of this crash retrieval program or they're still working in it. So they have firsthand knowledge, and I think that they have provided, and all their testimony was under oath. And I dare say that they probably provided evidence, but it's classified. But they didn't write these. If we look at the Schumer legislation, he's mentioned NHI 22 times in that legislation for non-human intelligence. If it didn't exist, it wouldn't be in there. If they didn't already know that it's a foregone conclusion that craft exists and alien biologicals exist, they wouldn't have an eminent domain law in there. They would still be exploring it to investigate whether they did or not. They'd have an authentic investigation like what NASA put on the show of doing, but didn't, and Arrow is supposed to do, but didn't. And like I said, I think they're trying to run the clock out and drag it on to the next election cycle, and hopefully they can get somebody in there that will make this all go away for them and business as usual. But that's why we're out here doing what we do, to not let that happen. And there's also the argument with them trying to say that they can't buy it, where all these intelligent beings can come in from way out wherever and come all the way to Earth, and then they crash in our atmosphere. That's just preposterous. Well, that's simplistic. And who's to say that there's just one type of them? Because if you know your history well enough, we've never been alone. There's more than one type of phenomena. And we had overt interactions with humanity, our regular civilization back 5,000 years ago. And prior to that, they were dwelling among man here and there and set themselves up, and earlier breakaway humans even that had the technology, that built the megaliths and such, that ruled over the general population. And after the last flood of Noah around 5,000 years ago, whether you want to believe in the religious aspect or not, there was a deluge at that time, and I can prove it. There's different impact sites around the planet, like the chevrons at Madagascar, that date to 3200 BC. So there was a deluge and a rain out, and so there's been basically a truce for the last 5,000 years where they've not been overt among us anymore. But that is changing for some reason, and we need to figure out what that reason is. Because whether they're concerned about us having an impact of some sort, which happens on average every 3,000 years, that is either hemispherical or global cataclysms. Over 200,000 years now, it's been the norm about every 3,000 years that we get a major impact, and it sets us back literally to the Stone Age. This last 5,000 year run is an anomalous. And there's actually evidence that modern Homo sapiens has been around easily 500,000 years. I've got evidence that I could argue millions of years. So we're the last of the line here. And that's if you even just take it back 200,000 years, that we're just now getting technologically advanced in the last 150 years, that we go from horse and buggies and flintlock rifles in the Civil War to being on the moon in less than 100 years. I just don't see that as organic either, that we've been seeded. Because like with patents and stuff, sometimes they have patents that will come out on the same day across the planet from each other. But like in 1850s, I think with the telegraph and the radio, there's a few of them came out on the exact same day, different parts of the planet. That knowledge is seeded to
there might be
humanity.
something to it. I see what you're
like
talking
David
about.
Grush said,
that argument. Yeah.
But he said that some deals have been cut with our adversaries. Then that would be a foregone conclusion that, like with Eisenhower in 52, that there's credibility to that then. So if that's the case, then we have to conclude with that it's reasonable to assume that they are trying, that we're in a proxy war, and there are different types of them out there with different agendas. And, we need to figure out what it is. People are not supposed to be, parts of our government are not supposed to be making treaties without, we have a constitution still, and there are legitimate and legal ways to ratify treaties, and doing it in the shadows, regardless of whether it's human or not, is against our Constitution, and not for the good of the people, I dare say. And if it is, then you explain why.
Yeah.
And they had to fly over on what I think there was some pushes to disclose themselves, like in '52 with 2 different flyovers of the White House. Even there's been
Yes.
several instances of this where people have tried to come forward with disclosure. Kehoe started. That was on the equivalency of David Grush, and we've had many throughout the years. They just kept getting discredited, and humiliated, and the CIA had a hand in the National Enquirer. So
Yes, they did.
of course we've got huge stigma, and the simplistic thing of yeah,
they're part of
but trying to say that they
Operation
came clear
Mockingbird.
across the galaxy just to crash an atmosphere. Yeah. We know who to thank for that one. But it's preposterous that I get the rationale, but that stigma the government created to have that kind of reaction among people that are so visceral that we've seen, Eric Weinstein talk about that, even him, he just can't get himself to acclimate to this because of the stigma that's been institutionalized for all of his life.
Right.
But they didn't come all the way here and then just crash an atmosphere. There are indications that some of them were shot down. So it looks like, that they're warring with each other. The 1561 Nuremberg woodcut, there were battle in the skies for hours going on, and all kinds of explosions, and many craft falling from the air, hit the ground, smoke and ruin, fire. And then this giant black looking craft that kind of blocked out the sun came, and everything got vacuumed up into it, and poof, gone. Yep. Full spear tip. Yeah. Horizontal. But that was in 1561. So those that try and say that the United States created Jacques Vallée has documented this back to 1400 BC. I've got cave wall paintings that go back 40,000 years that show, they drew it was in their environment, and this was this giant red skin, bulbous headed thing, and it's humanoid shaped, but it's like 50 feet tall and red with a giant head with tribesmen at its ankles. I don't think that was just hallucinogenic DMT artwork. If you did something like that in your environment and you've never saw it before, I think you'd want to memorialize it. They didn't do impressionist art back then. They drew what they saw. So they've had things that pop in there, and thank God it's not still here, because we probably wouldn't be. But people ask me, why do I believe that we're not left to our own devices? And I point out that, that we have, our creation shows the love of a creator, that we've got, all this beauty, and, the biome that's balanced out. That's not a prison planet. That's not water and bread and trapped in a cell. That is, what you want to make of it. If you want, you have the opportunity for a very enjoyable experience on this rock if you play your cards right, that there's beauty to be had. And that's partly how I know, which sounds preposterous maybe, but that's not a ET overlord that just has us here for food stock. I don't buy that either. I'm a Christian, and even Gary Nolan acknowledges that he sees intelligent design, and that there's not been enough time on this planet for evolution to occur naturally. It had to have been someplace else. And he's conceding that somebody or something created all this. He doesn't know what, but it wasn't just an accident. It was what he was getting at. And he finally conceded that. So science, I think, is on the right path. And like Lewis said, that religion and science are one and the same when you meet at the top. And I'm starting to learn what he's talking about with that. And that a lot of people get in this, physicists and everybody investigating it. They start out with nuts and bolts, and then they go into consciousness, because consciousness is the substrate that quantum vacuum, which is in the vacuum energy, they're both written upon. So, that's the energy source of everything. They're one and the same. They're not mutually exclusive. So, hey, Andrew, good to see you. We need to get you fired back up here soon as well, and give them a world tour of ancient history the right way.
I remember a year
But
ago, Rob, you and I were
we've not been
talking.
alone.
A year ago, we were talking, and I was telling you about um, technology, lost technology. I just couldn't see it,
Mm-hmm.
but studying it, subscribing to Uncharted X, man, we have some out of place items. Some of these stone jars, there is no way a human could have made it. They've proven that you have to have a machine to make it. And this is the civilization
Yep.
prior
On a lathe.
to the rise of
Pre-dynastic Egypt. They were hidden under one of the pyramids, and before the dynastic Egypt ever started, they were socked away. So yeah, they think that the Egyptian last iteration of the Zep Tepi was probably after the Younger Dryas 12,000 years ago. They were on the planet sometime before the last flood at 3,200. I think the demigods, the legends, about 10,000 BC to 7,000 BC or 6,000, and then they went away, and then their lifespans kept dropping down to the rulers. But we'll get into this another day. But I've even found evidence of carbon-14 spikes that it's as unbelievable as it sounds, that there may have been two ancient nuclear wars like Mohenjo-daro and the Vedic state. The carbon-14 shows that there were giant spikes twice, like 7,500 BC and another again at 6,000 BC. That's empirical. You can, like on Mars, there's chemical signatures that can only be produced by an artificial detonation. It can't be natural that they know of, period. So I didn't make that up. Those are in the chemical signatures. So, not me making up, wild stories. I'm just interpreting the data, and it's pretty empirical. It's just so fantastic. It's hard to accept. So we're trying to start with the most believable narrative. But like with Andrew, he's been pursuing this for a decade now in earnest with his team, longer than that actually, with pointing out that the global hallmarks of the protrusions or the nubs shows that the mystery megalith builders were global, and thousands of years before it was acknowledged that each continent were aware of each other's existence. But we found at least 4 different iterations and epochs of megalithic styles to where they kept showing up and disappearing again, and then another style would show up after that. And I think the Parthenon shows 4 different megalithic styles, one built on top of the next one. So that's how we know the chronological order of when they were built and in what epoch.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Rob, when you were talking, I opened up this package here with all these photos. This one's a good photo of my wife. I'll share it with you. It's her and our daughter. That came out great on metal. So hopefully, yep, y'all can see it. I see it. Good. One more. This is not for sale, by the way. That goes up on my wall. What I will sell, but not today. Check this out, Rob. Check that out, dude. That came out really good.
What's that?
American Eagle.
That was beautiful.
Took 2 blocks from here. Yeah, that came out great. I'll sell this one another time. But
yeah.
By the way, amazing. I keep all my receipts. My receipts go to Rob, and upon request, it will go to Lou, because Rob and I and Lou, we don't want to be accused of taking funds, which we have been accused last year. Yeah,
from our own charity.
Yeah, we were apparently stealing from our own charity, which wasn't true. In fact, I don't even have this channel. It could have been monetized a long time ago. I haven't even finished it. I need to because we've had donations that need to go to the charity. So I'll do the administrative work to
Yeah.
get this finally monetized, and I can get you guys can send super chats or whatever, and all that goes toward charity. So we appreciate you checking us out and donating. We'll get that thing up, donating maybe the next show. Hopefully, we'll do
Yeah.
that soon and more often. Get back in the saddle again, Rob. But one of the
Yeah.
things you brought up,
And Keith was just
was
mentioning that they.
real quick, one of the things you mentioned was money. When it comes to, I remember, and I posted this on Twitter recently because it reminded me of what I learned right after 9/11, and then it was like total silence. Secretary of State Donald Rumsfeld, is that correct? Yeah. Day before 9/11,
Yeah.
had a press conference talking about the Pentagon. They can't account for trillions, like trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
And the account, it was just, I guess, bad luck. I ain't saying, I'm not a conspiracy theorist kind of person, but it's weird when the office at the Pentagon that was investigating it gets hit by one of the hijacker aircraft and hit the Pentagon. It took out that accounting office, right? I mean, that's just bad luck. But hopefully, somebody will say, we need to hear more, we need to have answers to those questions. And if that was an investigation that had to stop because the building blew up, there needs to be another investigation. We can't let trillions of dollars go unanswered in this country. We need every dollar to do whatever, that needs to be accounted for.
Legitimate
So
projects.
this, and we'll pick up the investigation and give us maybe there's nothing there, Rob. They'll say, hey, there's nothing there. That's fine. There just needs to be a thorough investigation. Here.
Yeah. Keith wrote about the archaeological digs thousands of feet down. They're like with Andrew and Art. For those that don't know, Ancient History Criticisms, Andrew, that they brought me into their ancient history research team about 7 years ago now. And I've learned a tremendous amount with them and still part of that team, just doing this stint additionally. But, I come from a background of, I was a structural engineer and training and decades of experience with all kinds of power tools, electronics, programming, auto mechanics. I built onto my house here. Even I do all kinds of construction, so I know what tools it takes to create what kind of marks. And when I started seeing power tool marks on all these megaliths and stuff in antiquity, I knew that those could only be made with power tools. And who was running power tools back then? They didn't have a Black & Decker shop, down at the end of the pyramids.
No Lowe's, Rob. Lowe's.
Pedaling down. I've been pedaling up and down the Nile. Let's see, Julie. That's what they've been drilling in on, was to prove that these hallmarks there, and they've several now that show that they were global, whoever these megalithic builders were. And he was saying that there are some indications that some of the rights that or the knowledge holders have survived to this day, but I think there's been a reason why they can't use the technology overtly anymore, that they're keeping it. They're not allowed. I think I keep contending there's rules of engagement that seem to be changing though, but because for the last 5,000 years, it's been hands off. They've not been dwelling among man and having us, at their whim, whatever you want to call it. But with after the nuclear detonations and stuff that we've had, something's changing, and they're acclimating us to their presence. And there's many type of them, like these ancient spheres. They think that that may be an ancient planetary defense system of some kind, or advanced scouting, or both. It's not one
I like
thing
that
that we're
theory,
dealing
Rob.
with. There's a multitude. Well,
I
they
really
think
like
that
that
maybe
theory.
what happened at Roswell. I've read some, Stringfellow, I think was the guy's name, that wrote books on crash retrievals, and was really large in this. He died in like 2004, but I read some of his works. They had recovered some craft that had holes in them that were like the diameter of a pencil, and they couldn't figure out how to get into them at all. But they had holes punched through them that knocked them out of the sky. Something took them out. It wasn't our munitions that did it back then. This was like in the mid 40s and stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, we're caught in the proxy war is what it looks like. And, is there a cataclysm or something that's coming again? Which, in processional cycles, we do have a high incidence at certain time periods at intervals that kind of at the 3,000 year mark and 12,000 year mark, we're approaching another junction of that soon, where there is an opportunity for us to get whacked again by an impactor. And all of our nuclear assets and such, if our planet got hit, we have no way to contain all that. And we may have the right to free will, and they don't intervene. But given that some of the phenomena live here too, they don't want us to sanitize the planet. We can destroy ourselves evidently, and that's fine. And they're not going to intervene, but they don't want us destroying the rest of it and taking them with them, and everything else here that's biome, because this is kind of like an oasis in a desert. NASA says that they finally seen a planet 120 light years away that shows signatures of life. Well, I think they found it a little closer, but that's as close as they'll admit to, which means that Earth being organic and viable with its own biosphere is a rarity, in the age of the universe, which, by the way, had double that recently too. And they also having to do away with the Big Bang, but they came up with a dark Big Bang to compensate for what they couldn't explain, because they didn't want to trash the Big Bang theory now that Webb, has thrown shade on it. So now they come up with a dark Big Bang to account for that anomaly. I mean, it's just, at some point they've got to stop. It's just getting ridiculous, and they're going to have to retool. Yeah, definitely Europa, a water world, of chemical signatures that look like there's life there. But what are they trying to telegraph? And Jacques Vallée was on this. I think he has a very good understanding of it, that this goes back thousands of years in many different forms. So it's not like people misunderstood religion and gods, and like Jesus was an alien or something. No, it was exactly what we were. It was exactly what it presented to be in a lot of these instances. So I'm not going to go into theology and all that stuff, but don't let people try and tell you just because there's NHI that means that the gods that we believe in don't exist, because that's not true. Elohim is a generic word for God. There are many Elohim. There's only one Yahweh. So he is an Elohim, and there were many Elohim. There still are, and there are discarnate beings, evidently, as well, that aren't angels and demons. So it's not that simple. But if you understand free will and apply that to all creation, then it starts to make sense of what we're observing here, and what's going on. And we're not left to our own devices. We never have been. So we're not at the whim and mercy of some ET overlord that decide to come back and take over. No, there's a reason that they are showing restraint. And that's not a monopoly. When you have power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We don't see absolute power here. We see restraint, and because of that, that means that we do have Overwatch on our side that are keeping the wolves at bay. So what the outcome is going to be, with our nuclear assets and things, if we got hit again, we have no way to contain any of that. It's not like we can just turn off the lights. I mean, look at Fukushima. It's irradiated the entire Pacific. That's just one reactor. What happens if we get hit with a hemispherical impact and it takes out a continent? Our planet's going to be glowing hot for thousands of years. The two ancient detonations from like 7,000 BC, the carbon-14 levels didn't drop off until about 1,000 to 0 AD. It took 5,000 to 7,000 years for those to taper down. And I'm not saying that they were 100% a artificial nuclear weapon. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a physicist, but I do understand what I read to a fair degree. And if somebody can find an artificial way that took place, great. Just like on Mars. But it was a plasma physicist and other scientists that looked at Mars, and there is a peer-reviewed paper out there that explains that the only explanation that they can come up with were two giant warheads that would have been the height of the Empire State Building that hit Mars in two spots. And there's two radio signatures there that give it a clear-cut evidence of it being nuked that aren't a natural impact. They couldn't happen naturally, and that's what they were expressing, was that this had to have been, as crazy as it sounds, that's the only explanation that they could come up with. There was the Oklo nuclear mine that they said was they cite that 2 billion years ago in Africa. But they don't know if that was an artificial plant or natural. They tried, it had the perfect environment where the water was dripping in at just the right rate of purified water at just the right percentages to cause sustained nuclear reactions and energy yields without it going critical. So, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that as a natural occurrence. That was a one-off. If it were occurring in nature, we would have more examples than that. I don't want to have to believe that either, but the evidence doesn't lie. And there are things that are uncomfortable truths that we're going to have to get acclimated to, because our environment is changing and we need to be flexible enough to change with it and be able to adjust and overcome to that and adapt. So we're not going to be able to do that if we don't have accurate information and know our history, our true history. And that's one of the things that, I love about Andrew and them. They've been railing on us for 10 years now of sounding that alarm and not getting listened to as they should, not yet anyway. And like with the elongated skulls, there are examples of them from the womb with an elongated skull. They didn't do head binding in the womb. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
And they can't increase brain volume either. And not all of them are hydrocephalus, which is swelling of the brain. So some of them have 25 to 50% more brain capacity volume. And the elongated skulls they found on went back at least 12,000 years, where they found the oldest ones now. So, and they found them on every continent. And they're trying to say, well, they're just doing this to mimic what? They've been where you see them like depicted in Egypt and stuff. They were the ruling classes and the priest classes all throughout history on every continent where they've been found. So they wanted to emulate them, and there was a lot of head binding, but not all of them. They keep pushing back these inconvenient truths because they want the gradualism narrative, and history started in this little, we crawled out of a cave 6,000 years ago. Oh, but then this little thing called Göbekli Tepe happened, and then they had to double that. Oops.
Yeah.
So, most of what I found out that they thought was settled science and history, it isn't by any means.
I think David Grush said something. He said something that really stuck with me, and it's he says, "Where's your curiosity when it comes to Neil deGrasse Tyson?" Folks like that who have a lot to say about the subject matter, and it's obvious he hasn't read a book about it. So Rob, you're coming across.
Yeah, there's silicone based. There could be silicone based life and stuff.
You're good.
But yeah, where things are at right now, I think that the government is probably going to have to acknowledge that NHI exists and go on the record. But how do you come out after 75 years, tell the American people that, yeah, we know that they exist. We've been aware of that. We've been hiding it from you with a disinformation campaign. And we actually have possession of craft. And
With only the
maybe
best
you've had
intentions, Rob.
treaties with some of them. Yeah, exactly. But we're doing this all for your own good, like with Kennedy assassination. That may, you know, that those are still classified too. I guess that was for the greater good that they killed him as well, if you know, allegedly. But how can the government come out now in the military and admit that, yeah, they've known about this for 75 years. They've lied to us. They do have possession of craft. They've had entire dynasties of private corporations get rich off of this and powerful, and all under the guise of national security and altruism bullshit. There's a lot of people. You know, it's a very inconvenient thing. I mean, the government's going to have to come out and say, yeah, we've been aware of this. They're here. We don't know what their intentions are, and we can't do a damn thing about it. We don't know how to stop them. If they have bad intent, we're at their mercy. They're worried that there won't be a continuity of government and that people will be rioting. You know, we have a natural survival mechanism where people are going to have a cognitive dissonance, and if this does not overlap into their daily life, most people are going to dissociate from it. It doesn't matter what they come out on TV and tell them. If it doesn't land in their yard, like War of the Worlds, most people are not going to internalize this. It's going to be like watching a movie to them,
Right?
Until it does impact them directly. And let's just hope it doesn't come to that. But
yeah,
we don't. I've had a lot of discussions on that. We're not left to our own devices. You know, however you want to slice it, you don't have to believe in God. That's your prerogative, but I do. And, you know, they're saying that even, you know, like Lou was told not to pursue this because it's demons. Well, if that's the case, and if they're good Christians and they believe this is demons trotting around in anomalous craft, the Bible doesn't teach us to run from evil and ignore it and let it run rampant. That's not what we're tasked to do. You know, they're supposed, if they thought this was demons, they should be out there taking it on. That's what their job is, and that's what their religion tells them to do. You know, that they can, you know, evil triumphs and good people do nothing. And for the Pentagon evangelicals to say ignore it because they're demons, you know, that's saying ignore the criminals because they're just too scary, and we'll pretend they're not there and maybe they'll go away. No, they haven't gone away. So, you know, we've got to face the music here, people, and you know, understand we're not alone. We never have been alone. We're not left to our own devices either. We're probably looking at either a proxy war, well, that too, but you know, I keep hearing, and a lot of us hear this, that something is on the horizon, whether it's 2027, 2036, somewhere down there in the near future interim, that something major has a potential for happening, whether it's an invasion or an impact, either one. It really doesn't matter. But either way, with our planet, either kind of catastrophe for this planet to survive and humans and everything else on it, we need to be able to contain these things. And I dare say them being able to fly over, and when I first started looking into this, I thought it was just a few incidences of our nuclear warheads and silos being turned off. No, it was the majority of them. And I thought also it was just Russia's that were turned on in one instance. No, ours have been turned on as well in the United States. But there hasn't been an above ground detonation of a nuclear weapon since the mid-70s. How do we know that they're even working anymore? Maybe the big secret and the big lie is that none of them are working and no nation wants to admit it. I don't know. It's speculation.
That would be
great,
wouldn't it?
Our explosions that have been underground. Yeah, they've been underground. You can do that with TNT. There's no radiation measurements to indicate that they've been popping off nukes. So, you know, if they can transmute metals, they can disarm and they can neutralize radioactive materials and waste. So what's the end game here? We don't know. But until we can have an honest conversation, we're never going to know. And I think that's part of the plan for nefarious others and humans both, is they don't want humanity to survive, and they think that somehow they'll get a pass with it, that they won't be taken out as well. That's just asinine. It's like, yeah, demographics that Muslims hate, and thinking that, well, if we help them out, then, I'm not picking on Muslim religion. I'm just, for an example,
Right.
they would take their head off normally, that they would get a pass afterwards. No, you won't. Just like with the Inquisition and stuff, the Catholic Church, they didn't get a pass just because they were helping hold them down, to kill them and stuff. So it's short-sighted to think you can cut a deal with the devil and walk away. It's not going to work. We need to face this as a species, whatever this is. And we can't do that until we get these people that are trying to contain the truth from us for not altruistic reasons. We need to know the truth. Like Lou said, the somber thing, a lot of us have spent a lot of time thinking about that. And, whatever this is coming down, people need to know. We need to make decisions. It seems that there is something potentially significant. I wouldn't say it's 100%. Nobody knows. And I've asked a lot of people, and no one seems to have a really good pulse of it, other than something's being pushed into the human zeitgeist that is dangerous and imminent. And it may be just something to try and help shape the narrative to coax us into some kind of modified behavior, which is perfectly reasonable to assume also. But if you know your history, like Andrew and I do, especially, we get hit on average of every 3,000 years. That's just a fact of things that goes back at least 200,000 years. So they came out in the early teens and said that Apophis was going to hit 100% was going to hit by 2029. And then they came out a couple of years later and said, no, it's not anymore. And don't worry about it. But if it comes through in 2029 and it hits the keyhole in the gravity well in 2036, it's a foregone conclusion. We're going to get hit, and it's going to be bad. So is that what they're not telling us? I don't know. But we need to examine it. And as long as they're still lying, Rob, we won't know.
Rob, let me interrupt you right here. Even if let's say it is, let's say there's a collision that may happen on a certain day at a certain time, will our government tell us?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, they keep making movies like Don't Look Up and Nope, and are they trying to acclimate us to something? I'm on the fence with that. Would I want to know if the Earth was gonna get wiped out? I don't know. But I'd like to I think I would like to at least have the opportunity to make that decision. Maybe people would be a little more live with a little more intent. When your days are numbered, as you well know, you're a little more judicious what you do with your time and with people.
Right. And I wanted to bring that up, that this last few months, one of the things that I've been trying to do is prioritize everything. All these projects that, we all have, I'll get to it. I'll get to it one day. Well, maybe we won't have that time. So you might, maybe if everybody lived thinking life is shorter, they get rid of those long-term projects, focus on what really matters in their life, and just carry on. And that's what I've done in my life. Mm-hmm. I've had to put a lot of things on hold, or permanently on hold, or just say, I'm not doing this, because I've always had this over my head for years that I wanted to do this. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm only going to prioritize the things and the people and my family, the things that are important in my life. I'm going to concentrate on that. And that's my pep talk for all you folks out there, everyone else, to prioritize your life. Work on things that really matter to you and your family, and the things that mean something to you, and just go from there. And if you have that state of mind all the time, you're able to
Mhm.
I'm able to get a lot of weight off my shoulder that way. Even projects with the lawnmower. Well, I just sold my lawnmower because I'm unable to mow the lawn, and I love mowing my lawn. I had a John Deere zero turn, and it's like, that's it, man. I'm selling that sucker. In fact, I sold it for as much as I paid for it like 6, 7 years ago. So yeah,
Mm.
that's great. But I
It's tough letting go when you can't do things anymore. Um,
it is, and people, there's people that you know I just had to cut out in my life because it wasn't having a healthy relationship. And that goes, everybody has somebody like that in their family that personally me, I've had to let them go because I just can't deal with drama anymore. And that's like one of my number one policies.
yeah.
There's no drama. So I think what we're going to do, Rob, we're going to close it out right now. We've got a lot more things we want to say. There's a lot more things we want to do. But in the meantime, everybody, please check back with us. Check this
Yeah.
channel. Check the let me bring this up. This is my Twitter right here. Let me know if you're interested in any of the artwork that I showed tonight. And all that goes to charity. And Rob and I will be working more diligently to do more things with the charity and with this channel and
Yeah.
with you. And it's really nice to be back with you, Rob, and everybody. And hopefully we'll do it again. But we'll have Christopher
Likewise.
Sharp on here, I'm sure. That guy's everywhere these days. I see him
Yeah. I've got
on the news now.
there's
And
a few
we got a
people
lot
that
more.
I want to get back on here with us to start.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
any last words? Oh, I got some stuff I want to share real quick.
Yeah,
Hold on,
I
Rob.
do actually.
Go ahead. Me too.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I just to say with the prospect of getting hit with another impactor, um, what if our government actually did have like scalar technology already and they can't field it because they can't admit they have it because it's not sanctioned and they haven't gotten amnesty for it? How unfortunate would that be if they had the technology to stop an impact, but they didn't because they were afraid that they'd be prosecuted for not declaring it? That would just be jacked up, wouldn't it? But if we don't get ahead of this and make it a widespread topic and let our elected officials know that we want to know the truth, if we do have technology like that being hidden, it'll never see the light of day. And we deserve a fighting chance. And the only way we're going to get that fighting chance is if we look at the Jabberwocky, know that it's real, and address it with our full resources, like Reagan had said, as a species instead of a bunch of individuals. And I think that technology exists, and I think that we need to have that conversation, not just as Americans, but as a species, and be truthful for once about it. It doesn't negate religion at all. I think it enhances it actually. So, but we need to do for ourselves. Um, yeah, we need a fighting chance. The only way we're going to get that is if we get our government to come clean on this and see what's on the table to work with, and then we'll know where to go from there.
Well said, Rob. Well,
So I guess
when
that's
it
all
comes to,
I would say.
oh, well, we'll pick it up again, maybe tomorrow, soon, very soon. But one of the things that I want to share that I'm into, besides photography, is my family history. And recently, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say recently, it was a few years ago, I found out that one of my cousins, this is cool. One of my cousins was honored to be featured in a very, very old Wonder Woman Sensations comic book. The story is that this cousin of mine went to a lake because back then they didn't have air conditioning. I think it was 1920s. They didn't have air conditioning, so they go to lakes and they swim a lot back in the day. It was hot. So, so she went there and she discovered two girls were drowning, and she went out there to save them. And unfortunately, she died saving them. One of the girls died and one of them lived. And I want to bring that part of that right now. This is the part. This is the one out of 3 or 4 pages out of the book. And I'm concentrating on this one right here. I'm actually, if you know anything about graphic designing, I'm actually turning that image right there, folks, into a vector graphic. And it is extremely, it's enjoyable to do. It's very, I'm drawing each dot basically on it. Like let's say her arm there, those are individual red dots in between white, right? A white background, you got red dots. And what I did was for the last 3 days, I've been working on this and I've been sending videos of what I've been doing to Rob, and it just blows his mind what I'm doing. But once I'm done, I'll share the finished product. It might take days and weeks or whatever. It's going to take some time. I feel like I've been doing it for days and I really haven't even made a dent in this page right here, but stay tuned. More of that coming up. I just had an idea, Rob. I'd like to run it by you right here in front of everybody. Instead of calling our charity, we may have discussed this. Where is it at? It is, I don't have it right here. Instead of calling the charity Shannon Scott's annual Vets and Vets for Wounded Vets and Pets, I think we need to shorten it up a little bit. Maybe Vets and Pets charity, something like that. And I was just running that by you, see what you thought about it.
Yeah, we'll go over that.
We'll go over that. We got a lot to do. There's so much.
A lot to look at.
There's stuff coming out, folks, that I always say 2023, it's got more to give. Just stay tuned. We got Lou's book coming out and other things coming out, and it's just going to be a great year. I've always said it's going to be a great year. And I've said this to Rob many times, to whatever end, I'll be here with Rob and my family and with you guys, and we'll watch all this together. I think this will be fun. And let me get my video. Oh, it's ready. Other than that, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and send me information if you'd like to purchase one of the charity photos that I'm selling. And other than that, you have a good night. Later, Rob.
Later. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Yeah, all right. Nothing but love for you. Nothing but love for you. You think they have any clue what's about to happen to them?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.